love the opportunity to be here to talk to you guys today. A little bit like this conference in the way that it's a couple different technologies and areas that are coming together to make a much better story together. I'm up here with Vikram, my colleague, and we're going to talk to you guys a little bit today about both how we see speech and natural language technology evolving, and then how we see that changing in the contact center and how impacting the contact center. So I'm going to hand off to Vikram first and let him give you a little bit of an overview on that. And then I'll come up and talk a little more about the contact center aspects of it.
Hello, everybody. So let's get started with the evolution of interfaces, right? So over the years, you guys have seen, early on, we had to understand how computers spoke, right? So you would use punch cards, you would use memory registers. It was completely one-sided. And then we had a compromise. There were pointers, sliders, touch, but still, you had to program it. You need to understand how you interact with these computers. But we think today we're in the third generation of this evolution where computers understand natural language. Just imagine, today you're able to have a conversation with a computer in the cloud that has access to unlimited computing power and all the information on the internet. Imagine how powerful that is. Let me take you through how this actually works. Let's say you said, book a hotel in New York City, right? What we do is we have a service called automatic speech recognition, which is able to understand the audio and convert that into text. And then we have what we call natural language understanding, which takes that text and understands what it is about. So in this case, it's about hotel booking. The intent of that text is to book a hotel. And your customer has given you some information. That is, they want to book a hotel in New York City. And then what you would do is you go around and start asking for more information, right? So you need a check-in date, you need a checkout date, and that's what we call as dialogue management, which is, again, something that you can get today with conversational platforms. And once you have all the information, you go ahead and make a booking. So how do you make these interactions more engaging? How do you make your customers enjoy this experience and not feel like they're talking to a robo and keep saying operator, operator all the time, right? So you need your conversational agents to have social intelligence. You need them to have a personality. You need to be able to support different modality and also keep the conversation dynamic. There's a few tools at AWS that we provide that you can use to achieve all these. So for social intelligence, you can write code that once the user starts interacting with your conversational agent, you're able to go fetch all their details and context and figure out what the last order was, what information they've already given you, what their current account status is, and then tailor the conversation accordingly, which gives your conversational agent social intelligence. Personality. What we do is allow you to provide more than one prompt when you're asking for a particular piece of data, right? So in case they did not provide you the answer you were expecting, you should not just repeat the same sentence 4 times. What your conversational agent can do is use a different way of asking for the same thing. And that, again, gives you some variety and gives your bot some personality. You can also give your bot some personality in the tone of the voice. So with a text-to-speech service, you can choose different languages and pick a language and the voice that represents your brand. Modality. So today, it's not just enough to have a great experience on the IVR because your customers want to engage with your brand, with your company in many different ways. So you need to have that same experience on chat, on Facebook, on your website, on your mobile app. And again, you need the tools that support this capability. Dynamic conversations. How many of you have had an experience where you're chatting with the IVR, you make a mistake, and you're stuck. You're not able to come back, right? Natural language technologies need to provide capabilities to have dynamic conversation where if the user makes an error, there's a graceful way of handling it and changing course. You should also be able to put things together, like what we call as intent chaining. For example, once you book a hotel, then you should be able to ask the user, hey, would you now like to book a car? And put together many such capabilities in order to have a very sophisticated conversational agent. At AWS, we have what we call Amazon Lex, which is a conversational platform where you could come and build conversational agents. I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about all the different capabilities that we provide there, which refers back to all the different things that we just discussed that you need to have to build a good, engaging conversational experience. So as you guys know, we have Alexa, which is the popular conversational platform, and we took those technologies and tried to democratize it and put it in the hands of all the developers to be used either to build chatbots, to build IVR systems, to build mobile applications with conversational interfaces, and so on. So we have what we call as speech to intent, where we combine speech recognition and natural language understanding to go from speech all the way to identifying the customer's intent. We have dialogue management, which figures out what the current status of the dialogue is and then responds appropriately with your customer. You do not have to figure out all the different paths. You guys might have been familiar with certain tools which tell you all the paths that a conversation can go in, and you have to map all those out. You don't have to do any of that. You just mention the pieces of data that you need and how you ask for it, and Lex takes care of figuring out what to ask for when. Ability to deploy. So we're integrated with Amazon Connect. We have mobile SDKs integrated with Facebook. So wherever your customers are, you should be able to deploy your conversational agent easily with a few clicks, and you're able to do that. Scale. Imagine you have thousands of customers, hundreds of thousands of customers, and there is an outage or there is some sort of an event that your customers are calling you about. You don't want your IVR system to go down at that point. You want the system to scale effortlessly. And with AWS, you're able to do that because we manage the scaling for you. Business logic. So a big piece of building a good IVR is to have integrated business logic along with the conversational experience, right? So just being able to understand what the customer is saying is part of it. The remaining piece is to actually go and access your internal systems and fetch the right data and fulfill what the customer has asked you for. In order to do that, you need a way to inject all your business logic and be able to authenticate with your backend systems and be able to scale. So we integrate with Lambda, which is a serverless programming technology where you do not have to maintain any servers. You just write your code, and we take care of scaling. You're also able to pass OAuth tokens, using which you can authenticate with your backend systems, which is really important when you're dealing with enterprise-level contact centers. That brings us to security. We're integrated with Amazon Cognito, as well as we have another tool called access management, identity and access management, which lets you give access and protect the different resources and decide who gets to see which information. Analytics. That is one of the most significant pieces of your conversational platform, where you're constantly looking at how your customers are interacting with your conversational agent, and you're improving it, making it more robust. And the good thing about this is it keeps improving, and once you make an improvement, it stays with you. There is no danger that, okay, this person's learned all this, and then they move to a different team, all that knowledge is lost. It stays right there in your conversational agent. So you're able to see all the different utterances. That's what we call the interactions that your customers have, and look at which ones your bot was able to answer, which ones it wasn't. And based on that, you can add that into your conversational agent or add new functionality to address those different questions that you hadn't planned for. And text-to-speech. Another critical part of this whole experience where the input is audio, and you need to be able to speak back to your customers and answer their questions in an audio that is in the language that they're interacting with you, and also in the tone that reflects your brand. And we have what we call Amazon Polly, which is a text-to-speech service. With Polly, we have 52 voices across 25 languages. Just for English, we have 7 different voices, male and female. And you can choose the voice that fits your brand. You're able to, in cases where you want to have it on your website and you want to improve accessibility, you can do text highlighting and have the audio. You can also do fine-grained control for voice, where you want to pronounce a word in a certain way or have a certain feel to the voice. You're able to do all that. You can load custom vocabularies for hard-to-pronounce words like my last name or a certain brand or a certain industry-specific word. And you're also able to use it in all the different AWS regions. There's 14 of them across the world. Conversational interfaces simplify complex tasks. So here's a few examples, right? Booking a flight, or checking your balance at a bank, ordering a car, making a payment, and so on. Each of these tasks has a specific set of data that you need from your customer and a specific set of API calls that need to be made to make it happen, and can easily be achieved through a conversational interface. And then when the conversation gets more complex, when your agent is not able to handle that, you're able to pass it on to a human for further analysis and for further help. And that's how our customers are using it. For example, Liberty Mutual. So they have Lex as part of their IVR solution. And for simple tasks, they're able to handle it with Lex. And then when the customer asks for a human agent, you're able to transfer it over with all the context. And Pasquale would talk to you about this functionality when he's talking about Amazon Connect. Now that your bot tried to help the customer, got all the basics done, they went to a conversational agent, and then got the remaining tasks completed, and that audio has been recorded. How do you analyze those conversations? I'm sure all of you that run contact centers here or are familiar with the contact center space have millions of hours of or millions of minutes of contact center data that you've recorded that you have no way of analyzing. Or maybe you're analyzing a small percentage of that data by manual methods. The best way to do that is to transcribe it. Once you transcribe that audio, you're able to get customer insights, you provide greater access, you get global reach, and then there's also use cases where you can target advertising if you have audio content, and you can also have archives and search through them once it's in text format. And to help you do this, we have what we call Amazon Transcribe, which is our speech recognition service. It's a fully managed, continuously trained, long-form speech recognition service where you can load a whole 2-hour file, up to 2 hours. So maybe your contact center conversations are all around 20, 30 minutes. And it'll process the whole thing and give you the text output. It's able to handle telephony audio, specifically 8 kilohertz, which is low fidelity telephony audio, where there's not a lot of space. So there's a lot of loss in quality. And we've trained our model specifically to handle that low fidelity audio. We integrate with S3, so you can dump all your audio files in storage in S3 and then we'll pick it up from there. We provide timestamps and confidence scores. Really important for training purposes when you want to say, hey, at what point did the agent say this? And you type that in, and it can go straight to that part of the conversation. Punctuation, it makes it really readable. Imagine just seeing a blurb of text versus having capitalization, full stop, commas, etc. We support both English and Spanish. Speaker detection and custom vocabulary. And I'll talk through each of them as we go forward. So I was mentioning support for a wide range of audio. This becomes really critical because people don't realize how different 16 kilohertz or higher audio that you record with your cell phone or over the internet, the quality of that audio or broadcast audio versus telephony audio is. And it requires a lot of specific training, specific data sets in order to make it really work well for low fidelity 8 kilohertz audio. And Transcribe is able to do that really well. And we also support multiple formats. So there is FLAC, WAV, MP3, MP4, or whatever other formats you have. We're able to handle all that. Timestamping and confidence scores. So like I was saying, very useful for training purposes where you want to look for certain keywords. What did the agent say? What did the customer say? And you're able to go right to the exact spot in the conversation. You're also able to see the confidence score. So for example, if you want a post-editing step where you want a human to look at the transcript and then edit only the words that the speech recognition engine did not get right, you can focus on just the words with low confidence, and that speeds up the process of your human post-editing. Punctuation support. Here's an example of how different the text looks when you have punctuations and when you do not have them, right? So please extrapolate the projections based on the market growth and segment share. Can you email it to me once you're done? And then when you have the punctuation, it starts with, please extrapolate the projections based on the market growth and segment share. Can you email it to me once you're done? Very different, much more easy to read. Speaker detection. This is another capability that makes a big difference when you're analyzing contact center audio. So a lot of you may have multi-channel audio, right? But then when you have to process it and figure out who the agent is and who the customer is, you have to process different channels, and both are the same length. So you end up processing double the audio length. But when you have speaker detection, you can process both of them together, and Transcribe is able to differentiate between one speaker and the other. Custom vocabulary. So similar to how we had in Poly, if you have brand names, industry-specific jargon, or keywords that are specific to your industry, you're able to load that up as custom vocabulary, and you get much higher accuracy because you're biasing the speech recognition models towards those particular set of words. Now that you have all the text, how are you going to extract all the insights from this text? Right? So it's a million minutes of text, but you can't read all that, right? So you need an automated way of extracting those insights. So we provide what we call Amazon Comprehend, which is a fully managed service that helps you extract insights from unstructured text. What it does is it helps you extract the sentiment, the entities. Entities would be things like names of brand, names of people, dates, locations, and so on. Key phrases, which are noun phrases, right? Saying great experience, poor battery, a broken screen, all these would be key phrases. Language detection. We're able to detect more than 100 languages. So if you have emails coming into your contact center and you want to know which ones are Spanish, which ones are English, so that you can route that to the right agent, you're able to do that using language detection. And then topic modeling. Again, if you have, let's say, 5,000 different calls that are all transcribed, and you want to figure out what are the common topics between these calls, you would run that through topic modeling And then it would show you that topic 1 consists of these different words, right? Unable to pay, account balance, and things like that, which is, okay, people are having some difficulty in paying, and they are having to call in order to solve that. And then you go look at your payment flows, right? And then so on. You will see all the different topics and the different calls. So you can actually drill down from there and then click on the particular call and search for the word and go right to the point and listen to the audio. Imagine how powerful that level of analytics could be for you. Here's an example, right? So let's say you have the text, we had a great experience at the event, we would certainly visit again next year. You would get the sentiment as positive, and then you would get the key phrases as well. And then if you have another example, the service was slow, we had to wait for 2 days for the replacement part, you will be able to figure out that the sentiment is negative. I'll now hand it off to Pasquale Di Maio, who's the general manager for Amazon Connect, to take you through how AI is making a difference in the contact centers.
Terrific. Thanks a lot. So I think it was great to get a feel for the technology and how the technology is advancing first, and seeing really what you are going to be enabled to do now that was maybe not possible even a couple years ago in terms of being able to understand your customer and then use that data to make decisions. I'm going to take a little step back now and talk a little bit about how that rubber meets the road, if you will, in terms of contact centers. So how many folks here are Amazon customers? Anybody in the audience? Well, first, thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Anybody here have to talk to Amazon customer service? Cool. So we have a few folks. That's great. We like to keep that number as small as possible and get things right the first time. But I'm sure you folks in the business know that customers sometimes need to talk to somebody. At Amazon, our goal is for folks to have that experience not be one where they just leave feeling like it was okay, or they survived, or they finally got what they want, but instead that they leave feeling like they actually liked that experience and they would be more likely to use Amazon again, even though maybe they had a problem. And so in order to do that, that means you have to be able to provide much better than just acceptable customer service. You need to provide great customer service. How many folks in here are focused on the customer service for their company? So quite a few of you. That's terrific. So most of you probably imagine that Amazon has a customer service center for Amazon.com. You might not know that we have 50 different contact centers within Amazon. And you also might not know that at our peaks, which are often during the holidays or also during Prime Day, which is in July where we have a big sale, that we scale to up to 70,000 agents. So it's a big contact center. And we've seen a lot of the challenges out there. I bet a lot of the same challenges you have. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we ended up being in a place where we decided we need to build our own contact center to be able to provide what we needed. And so I'm going to jump into that now and talk a little bit about what Amazon Connect is. So we started with what we call the basics. 10 years ago, we were looking at all the different contact centers that were out there. And even what we consider the basics, we weren't seeing what we felt like we needed in the industry. Skills-based routing, obviously, table stakes. Getting the right customer to the right agent, super important. Call recording, and having easy access to that call recording. Real-time and historical analytics. So at Amazon, we're incredibly data-centric in the way we think about solving our customer problems. We want to look at every single problem a customer has and then take the aggregate of all those problems and use them so the next customer doesn't face those same challenges. And so folks here, are you guys using analytics more and more in your business? Are you guys seeing more and more analytics? Anybody in here change the way they thought about analytics in the last 2 years? I know I have. And so the last piece is, of course, high-quality voice. So we want to have the best quality we can all the time. Obviously, there are some limitations. Vikram talked a little bit about the challenge of the telephone network. That's not going anywhere anytime soon. So being able to handle that 8 kilohertz and use that and have that sound as good as possible is important. And then having your agents connect. We use soft phones to get the best quality with them. And the thing about that is agents actually and customers have a much better experience when they can understand each other. I know that sounds obvious and it's kind of a funny thing to say, but the reality is you actually see the scores increase when the audio quality increases. And so those are real key things. Again, I call this sort of the table stakes of a contact center. But we very quickly realized, as hard as it was to get this, there was a lot more that we knew we wanted. And so first off, cloud-based. So we see the world moving to the cloud. It's really becoming the new normal. And the reason why that is for quite a few different aspects. But for the contact center specifically, the one I think might be most important is the fact that you can have your managers, have your agents, have everybody anywhere you want in the world, and they can be interacting with the system, providing great customer service, and being able to use the system and scaling it up and down. I talked a little bit about how much we grow to the 70,000 agents, but in the July timeframe, that sale is really only one day. That's why we call it Prime Day. And so if you think you need to be able to go up to 70,000 agents, but in 2 days back to normal, then you need to be able to do that in a way that doesn't involve truck loading huge amounts of hardware in, setting them all up, setting up everyone on top of their computers in a single room. The old days of that have to be long gone. What you need to be able to do is be even right up to the last minute deciding how much capacity you need and being able to get as many agents as you need. And sometimes that can be something that surprises you. With Prime Day, we usually have a pretty good heads up it's coming. But occasionally there can be things where people get very excited about a certain product or other things that are happening. And we need to be able to scale those folks up and down. And so the cloud allows you to do that without having to pre-provision lots of hardware or plan everything out months and months in advance. And that's a real important aspect of it. The second piece is self-service. And I want to talk a little bit about this one because I see this as maybe the most important aspect of everything we talked about today. And we only scratched the surface of it in terms of technologies. But the key thing from my standpoint is empowering you to achieve your goals means you have control of the system. Anyone in here ever wanted to make a change and had to go hire somebody with very specialized skills and then maybe wait a month to have what they implemented come back to you and then find out it wasn't right and have to do it all over again? We were in that situation, and it was incredibly demoralizing to the people who worked on it, right? It's like you want to be able to go in there and make changes quickly. Amazon Connect and our tools are all put you in the driver's seat. We didn't talk much about this yet, but everything that we do with Lex, for example, you have control of. So you can go in there and you can change what the intents are. You can change what the utterances you're looking for. You can change all these pieces yourself. It's all drag and drop, and you type in things. And instead of having to input 1,000 different samples of what a customer might say, you can put in 10 or 100, and those samples are then interpolated by the tools to be able to understand what the customer is saying. So let's say it starts out with, you're a shoe shop. And so people call and say, I want to buy some new shoes. But now you're starting to get more and more younger customers, and they're calling up and saying things like, I want to buy some cool kicks. Right? And so what happens is, instead of having to go out and send out all the new utterances you think you have, you just go in yourself and add the word, I'd like to buy kicks in there. And as soon as you do that, you submit it, and immediately your bot is updated to be able to now understand this new terminology. That has the power that you need to have for your business. This is something you're just not going to be able to survive without. You need to be able to make changes instantly because things are changing instantly with your customers. So that self-service aspect of it's incredibly important. And throughout our entire contact center platform and through all of our different tools you saw from the natural language technology, it's all self-service. You are now empowered. And in many places, in fact, most of the important ones where you want to make quick changes, it can be done by a business decision maker, not necessarily a programmer or someone who's specialized in this art. I always like to say that if you want to get someone to work on this, you can just put an ad in Craigslist. It's a lot easier than the days when you had to go find somebody who only understood this very specific natural language understanding platform and had spent 10 years working on it. And oh, by the way, they're busy for the next 2 months because somebody else already hired them. So I talked a little bit about that. Our customers often tell us that what we've done in a day with them, we'll bring them in and we'll say, let's sit down and set up a contact center for you. And they'll be like, okay, so we'll get this started, and in a few weeks we'll have one. No, you'll have a contact center up and running with Amazon Connect in less than 5 minutes, and you'll be taking your first phone call. And this is a contact center that can scale to the Amazon scale of level of usage. And so that 5 minutes is going to get you up and running. But the thing we'll do then is say, let's walk through one of your IVRs that you have today and use our contact flow editor to create that experience again. And I've had a number of customers tell me what took them $1 million and months to implement, we've been able to do in an afternoon. I know that sounds crazy, but the nice thing is you don't have to believe me, because you can go off and do it right now yourself. We do boot camps, we bring people in, and then they start the day off with them having literally not even necessarily an AWS account, and by the end of it, they have a fully functioning contact center with a Lexbot integrated into it. And if anyone wants to talk to us about that after the show, I'd be happy to get your name. We can send an invite to you guys so you guys can follow up on that and find out when we're doing one of those in your area. But I like to call it walk in with a laptop, walk out with a contact center. So the second part of this I think is incredibly important is the fact that it has to be personalized and dynamic. You talked a bunch about this before, but the difference between having an experience that's good with a bot and one that's bad with a bot is all about the design of the bot and the experience. It was something that was very hard to do, I think, even a couple of years ago, but now I think it's going to be table stakes. And customers can actually enjoy this experience as opposed to dreading it. As you mentioned that, let me talk to a representative, let me talk to a representative. You never want your customers to experience that. So I'm going to give you a little example right here of a version. So a call comes in. Very first thing you do is look at your back-end systems. Check out what your CRM has to say. Look at some data about the customer.
I see your flight was canceled today. How can I help you?
Can you please rebook me for the same flight tomorrow?
Okay, you are now booked for a 9 a.m. departure tomorrow out of San Francisco, arriving in Seattle at 11:45 a.m.
Great, thank you.
So the difference between this experience and the one people associate with an automated experience or an IVR is substantial. But the reason why it's substantial isn't because magic happened. All of this stuff is information you already have in most cases. You know a lot about your customers, and instead of showing them something that's asking them something that you already know, jump ahead and help them understand what they're doing, and then give them the power to respond to that really quickly. So in this case, it's a great example. How many times do you think someone calls in where the answer is obvious in your business? I know for our case, we often know that a customer placed an order. It's a good chance that's what they're calling about. Or we know a shipment was delayed because of a snowstorm. It's a good chance that's what the customer is calling about. Take these things that make them fluid and fast, and it goes from something that's painful and hurtful for the customer into something that's delightful. I mean, you really have that opportunity to change that experience. And before you know it, you'll have customers saying that automated experience was better than an agent-driven experience. Now, of course, you still may want to talk to an agent afterwards. This person may want to do something that's unusual or something that isn't planned for, or may just want some level of confirmation that what they said happened. And all of that is great. We don't see that going away. But taking care of these straightforward things and making that a really enjoyable experience for the customer is something everyone in this room should feel empowered and be empowered to do. So jumping back to the key parts of that we look at it is, first off, it's got to be dynamic. It's got to change based on the customer, making it personal, and it's got to be supernatural. And we talked a bunch about the natural aspects of this, and having you guys in control of how you make it natural by being able to change the things the customer can say, responding to things instantly. One note we didn't talk much about in Lex, but Lex actually will show you all the common things people are asking you and the things that it didn't know what it was being said to it. So you can then approach that from a very analytical standpoint and make those changes based on what your customers are actually saying to you. So again, all putting this power in your hands. There we go. So the last part of building things here is really about the platform. And I'm going to dive in a little bit about how we've configured this and where we think things are going for people to be able to be empowered. I talked a lot about the portions of this that are very self-service in terms of business decision makers, but I'm guessing a bunch of you have some fairly heavy integrations as well, where you have back-end services, where you have CRMs. Folks in here using off-the-shelf CRM? Anybody? Folks in here using a custom CRM or agent desktop? So we've got a few of those as well. So at Amazon, we use both. We have a number of different businesses doing different types of things, all the way from help desks that have maybe just a few agents, all the way up to that 70,000 scale. And we're integrating with all different tools. And so the first part of that from Amazon Connect standpoint is that contact flow engine or the contact flow editor I talked about, where you can go in and drag and drop and create the experience the customer has. But to get those great personalized experiences, you're going to have to make calls out to some back-end systems that are likely a few back-end systems, probably to a CRM, probably to some databases, and also, quite possibly, and in the future, almost certainly, business intelligence, where you're making decisions based on what you know about the customer, based on ongoing situations, and based on what you're predicting is going to happen in the future. And so all those things need to be integrated into that contact flow. My colleague mentioned Amazon AWS Lambda. Lambda is a tool that makes that super simple. Now, you do have to have some programming skills to use Lambda because you're going to be talking to a lot of these older systems, and they probably have quite a few different ways they want you to interface with them. But Lambda allows you to write a very small amount of code to do that, as opposed to setting up a big, heavy integration that requires setting up servers and having a back-end system running all the time. With Lambda, you only run the code when you need it. It's a server, what we call a serverless architecture, which means you just write a few snippets of code that make the call out to that back-end system, and you can talk to virtually any back-end system immediately. And so when you want to know who is this customer, you make that call into your CRM, and it returns back the information you want, for example, their name, their phone number, when their last order was, who the last agent they talked to. You can bring all that stuff back and then use that directly in that drag and drop contact flow model I talked about. So instead of calling up and saying, hello, how can I help you, who are you, enter your ID, you can say, oh, I see this phone number, so I send that phone number out and I come back and say, oh, that's Pasquale, and oh, by the way, I know that I talked to him yesterday. I can even ask, hey, are you calling about the same issue you had yesterday? You can do all that because you have easy access to that information. And that's a big part of being able to change the whole mental model around how these bots are talking to your customers and how you're making their experiences much, much better, much, much more personal. Of course, if you hand off to an agent, that agent needs to be able to follow through and take care of that. And we do that through integration with the CRM or that agent desktop you have. So we have a very simple contact control panel that lets you plug directly into our CRM. We support the big guys you might know, Salesforce, Zendesk, a bunch of others, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But you also can do it in a custom one. We had one customer say they integrated our contact control panel, the thing that shows you the phone call coming in, allows you to accept it or decline it. They integrated that in less than a day. And so the point is, again, this velocity, this business velocity that you have to do things quickly is so key to the future because things change quickly, and you want to be empowered to make those changes quickly. Similarly, call recording. So I think Vikram also mentioned S3. S3 is Amazon's storage system. It's very inexpensive. It scales. It has tons of tools. It's one of the most popular products we offer. And so instead of dumping your call recordings into a walled garden where you would have to have special access to them or maybe pay an exorbitant price for them, this is going into a powerful storage system that's evolving every day. And the great thing about that for you as a customer is that it's, well, first off, I'll say inexpensive again, but it's also very powerful. It's evolving. So every time they make an improvement, perhaps you have retention policies, we keep adding new tools for that all the time. And you don't have to wait for my team, the contact center team, to go add those. You get them immediately. And so every day it's getting better and better. And I like to say at this point, we really do believe, and it's a mental model, that your data is your data, and you should have control over it. And so if you want to run analytics tools on these call recordings or move them somewhere else or do whatever you want with them, we're totally fine with that. There's no laws about how you have to pay us to get access to these and things like that. All you're doing is paying for the core basic storage, which is very inexpensive. And we'd love you to use Transcribe and comprehend with it because we think those are great tools. But if you prefer a different tool, we're totally happy to have you do that as well. Again, it's your data. You should have access to it. Same thing with metrics. So we talked a little bit about analytics. How many of you use analytics tool like Tableau or QuickSight or something like that that's in the industry, folks using those? And I bet you guys have a bunch of custom ones that you're using that have been designed for your system. With the contact center data, we think you should have instant access to that. So we stream our most detailed data records directly out to the warehouse of your choice. And the most important part about that is that then you can join them with other data because you're going to be taking data from your CRM, from your ordering backend, from all the different platforms you have, whatever your customer databases are. You want to bring all that data together so you can make good decisions. And the key part of that is that that's going to change next year. Whatever you're doing today, I guarantee will be different next year. And you want to be able to do that quickly and be able to then use the tools you want. So if you're using one of these off-the-shelf ones, if you have a custom-built one, whatever you're doing for analytics, you should have fast and easy access to that data. And so we see people investing more and more here, and we think that's only going to accelerate over time because you want to keep making better decisions for your customers. And then finally, agent data. Folks here, how many folks here have more than 100 agents? Folks with more than 300 agents? Folks with more than 1,000? And folks with over 10,000. Okay, so even a few 10,000 folks over there. So you guys are probably pretty aware of the expense and the time lost if even a small problem happens with your agents, if you overstaff, if you understaff, the massive impacts that can have. And so we also make available all your agent data so you can make good decisions with WFM tools, workforce management tools, We plug into those. Again, the data is available. It's open. You can do whatever you want with it. Your data should be your data. And so I'm not going to run through all these, but these are all the different parts of the AWS ecosystem you can leverage. I mentioned before, the great thing about these is that they're separate products. So they're fully defined, they're well documented, they're easy to use. They have to be the best of breed because they are a single product that someone chooses if they buy or not. And then you can use them however you want to. And whenever they improve, you get those improvements immediately. There's a huge section of artificial intelligence in there and analytics in there that I think are incredibly important. But all these aspects here are things that people are going to be using more and more in the contact center, because the contact center is really shifting from a place of specialized use cases where folks had to have very tribal knowledge and very special understandings of technologies, maybe just the phone lines, maybe just the tools they were using or the vendors they were bought required them to understand this. The world's moving to a much more open situation where you're building using modern programming practices, modern programming tools, and modern programming languages. And again, that allows you to find people who can do this much, much faster, and empowers you to bring people onto the project, get them spun up much quicker, and also to move them around, make them fungible. So if they're working on project A this week, they can work on project B next week. Having all of these tools available means that you're, again, empowered to move quickly. And it's all about this business velocity. You're just not going to be able to sit still and not move forward, because your competitors are going to be doing that. They are going to be moving fast, and they're going to be changing. You're going to see companies coming out of nowhere that are doing things that are going to be interesting and compete with you, and you need to be able to respond to those quickly. So again, it's about empowering you to be thinking about your business, not about the underlying technologies, and not worrying about the legacy of what's been there before. The last one I'll talk about a little at the bottom, we touched on security, but for Amazon, security is our #1 priority. You can see what happens when you lose the trust of your customers if you have a breach. And so we know that we can never regain the trust of our customers if we lost it. We make sure that that's always the top thing we're thinking about. And so if we ever have a security issue, we drop anything and we move to fix it and get it back where it needs to be. And we think you guys should be doing the same. And so we provide a lot of tools to enable you to build secure platforms and secure experiences on top of it. And we also are incredibly passionate about providing you the information, the documentation, things you need, the best practices to be able to build very secure systems for you and your customers. And so the last part I'll talk a little bit about here is the ecosystem. And folks here are probably using quite a few of these systems already. But these are some of the partners we have on the technology side that plug into Amazon Connect. You can see we have a lot of different folks on the CRM and the BPM side there, the folks who are helping you provide better service to your customers, have better data about your customers, being able to interact and provide flows for your agents so they have great experiences. Similarly on the workforce management, I think you see all the folks up there you might expect to see. These guys have been great partners for us. They've been really eager to engage with us and help build out those systems so you can predict what you need and how many agents to have on, how many agents you'll need, and also be able to see and track how your agents are doing over the course of the day and see if they're performing and doing the things they're supposed to be doing. And then lastly, the analytics. And this is the one I think is growing the fastest and is the most interesting. And you see such a broad swath of folks in there who are doing things all the way from just letting you see what kind of contacts you had that day, all the way down into seeing very specific fraud-based stuff where they're analyzing the information coming into the system to determine if it's likely that this call is fraudulent or if it's a real call from the person who it claims to be. And so I think this is going to be maybe the most exciting space to watch, only because we're just scratching the surface on what we can do in terms of being able to understand our customers better and help our customers get better service based on what we know about them and what we can predict they're going to be interested in. So similarly, we know that we work really hard to make this very easy to do, and we spend a lot of time making it self-service, but a lot of folks would like some help. It's key to have customer consulting partners who can help customers. And we have a number of those. These are some of our validated ones. We actually have hundreds who are in the process of becoming validated, but these are some of the ones that you can get right now and have a great experience because they really understand Amazon Connect, but also understand all the different technologies that are going to change the way the contact center works. And you want a customer service consulting partner who is looking not just at what's been and what's happened in the past, but is looking at the future and how things are changing and how technology is changing this, and who can help you move quickly and help you get up to speed and do the things you want to do. So coming back to it, Amazon Connect and artificial intelligence are, I like to call them two great tastes that taste great together, but it's really a peanut butter and chocolate type of situation where we see all the advances that we're making in the industry is making in natural language technologies, and they plug directly into the contact center, whether it's analyzing call recordings, whether it's interacting directly with the customer, whether it's helping your agents be better, giving them that information. And then in the future, it's just growing faster and faster. We're going to see more and more uses of artificial intelligence in terms of being able to route more efficiently to the right agent, being able to give agents contextual help, and then things that I know I haven't even imagined yet. You guys will be thinking them up. And because you guys are empowered to take control of your solution, you won't have to wait to ask me permission or get help. You'll be able to go out and drive that yourselves and think of things that no one here has even thought of yet. And so, and the last thing I'd like to do is give you guys a little bit of a quick demo here. Now, hopefully at work, I know we're underground quite a ways, but my cell phone has a bar, so I'll give it a shot. But I thought it'd be kind of fun just to dial in and show you guys Lex in action with Amazon Connect. So I'm dialing a phone number now.
Hi there. Welcome to the Amazon Connect Ride Status Demo. You can use this to hear the details for a scheduled ride or to speak to an agent. What would you like to do?
Check my scheduled ride.
What is your trip ID?
4515.
Your pickup is scheduled for Thursday, April 12th at 6:15 p.m. at 1915 Perry Avenue, Seattle, Washington, for 1 passengers. I'm sending you an SMS reminder. Would you like to speak with someone about this reservation?
Yes.
Okay, let me find an agent for you. 1 moment, please. In this demo, there are no real agents. At this point, you would have been connected to an agent, and data about your call would be shared with him, so they would have the context about your reason for calling to better serve you. For example, we could have shared with the agent that the number you called from is 1-206-349-8588,
Please don't call me at home.
and that you were calling about trip ID 4515, or that based on the confirmation number you entered, you had a ride scheduled for Thursday, April 12th at 6:15 p.m., or even that you requested an agent after you heard your ride information. Thank you for trying this demo. Goodbye.
So you can see that I was even able to remove the agent process and explain the demo, and honestly, you didn't even really need me for the demo. So again, coming back to it, you guys can probably imagine how this could change the way you're thinking about your customer service, the way you're collecting data, and the way you're passing that data on to the agent. That get rid of that experience where the first thing the person asks you is, hey, what can I help you with? I'm going to need your name, your ID. Why pass all that? Why not have all that stuff passed automatically? Why not bring that in there, have that agent have a great experience, have that customer have a great experience? Everyone's so much happier, and your customers are empowered to move forward quickly and really value your business. I think that's all we have today, but we can hang out for a few minutes over here on the side if anyone would like to take any questions, or we'd like to take any questions, I should say, or anyone wants to give any comments. We'd love to chat with you. And also, if folks are interested in following up and having us talk to you about coming to take one of those boot camps, we'd love to have you guys join us for one. Excellent.
Thank you, guys.